Morrnah Simeona developed self-identity through Ho'oponopono from the Hawaiian traditional wisdom. She introduced her method of problem-solving and karmic cleansing at the 1980 Huna Research Association seminar in Hawaii. For the next 10 years, she continued to refine her 12-step Ho'oponopono and traveled many countries to give these precious teachings to the world. Who is Morrnah Simeona? We all know that she was a great teacher, but it also makes one wonder why Morrnah was qualified to be given such profound wisdom and insight. First of all, she was taught directly by God how to heal people when she was only 2 years old. She was guided by God, the I, or Divinity, throughout her life. She was always obedient and fully committed to the I. Morrnah was born with tremendous psychic abilities that made her one of the greatest mystics of our time. She could easily have been a master of occult teachings. Instead, one of her missions was to turn the traditional Ho'oponopono wisdom, which was privy only to the Hawaiians, to a practical and universal application, and to give it to everyone on the planet. At the Huna seminar, Morrnah talked about her early career as a healer, and how the Hawaiian goddess, Hina, had guided her. Hina is the goddess of the ocean and the moon. She is the goddess of fishing and food plants.
Now let me explain that when I was young, I learned to do the process of broken bones. At the age 4, my mother used to do it too. And it's written out in a book by Rodman, Sorcerers and Kahunas. And anyway, he had written it in a certain fashion, but my mother used to do it too. But the process that we did was, we had herbs that were planted a little separate from the other, because we use that herb by itself, and next patient comes, we use this herb, but we never see our patient, rarely ever. So I would run out in the yard and do our prayers. Now the prayer, as has been brought out in the, some of the other speakers have brought out about Ku and Hina, which is the negative positive polarity. We must establish a name, a significance, and identity. So identity was Ku for the masculine and Hina for the female. So that created the action. Without the negative, you have no action. So the process that was given me was through a dream. I was helping my mother with her method. And finally, in a dream, I had Hina, or the goddess of healing, came to me and said, I don't want to use that leftover. So I said, what do you mean? She said, that is someone else's process and it's a leftover. I'd like to give you something of your own. So what is that? It said water, the media of water, whether you image it or it's real in a glass of water. So the process that gave me made it easier for me then to go out in the yard, pick the plant, and come back. And my mother was the proxy. And she was Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith, and so forth on down the line. Well, my neighbors would look over and they would see me. There goes those kahunas again. And it used to bother me because their thought forms were so potent that they were like little hooks, fish hooks. And the pain remained for a whole month. And I thought, my God, do I have to go through all this all the time? Someone comes for healing, we have to do this. So I devised the method. So I'd wait until it took that time to go in the back and come back. And I noticed there were some fronds, grass, growing alongside of the edge of the sidewalk. So I grabbed that and I used that as a proxy, as a substitute for the herb way back in the yard to save me from getting all these negative thought forms. So I did that for a year and a half. And finally my mother looked over the window and then she saw me standing. She said, what are you doing? And then I told her, well, I've been doing it for over a year and a half. She said, well, that's sacrilegious. You should never break the rule. I said, well, I couldn't help it. Because I feel, you are Mr. Smith. Are you truly Mr. Smith? You're only a proxy. Why can't I substitute that herb with the grass? Because they're all God's creations. So from then on, I was on my own.
In a 1982 interview with the Honolulu Advertiser newspaper, she said God came to her in the form of prominent Hawaiian gods. Kane, Lono Q, Kanaloa. In Hawaii Mayan mythology, Kane, along with Q and Lono, created the universe. Kanaloa is the god of the sea and sailing voyages. She said these gods talked to her and gave her the teaching. She also said, from the age of 2, she understood that the thundercloud, the ocean, the mountains, even the blades of grass, were part of God. As a little girl, she learned that she had the power to heal. Morrnah's healing career continued into her adulthood. She ran 2 health spas at the Kalhala Hilton and Royal Hawaiian hotels at Waikiki Beach. In his book The Kahuna Sorcerers of Hawaii, Past and Present, Julius Rodman wrote a first-hand account of Leilani Melville being treated by Morrnah. Melville is the author of Children of the Rainbow, The Religions, Legends, and Gods of Pre-Christian Hawaii. In 1971, Melville had a 3rd heart attack and a compound hip fracture. He was treated in a San Francisco hospital. Shortly after his discharge in October, he flew to Honolulu to seek treatment by Morrnah. He was treated for 2 weeks in Morrnah's health spa. His conditions were so bad that Morrnah told their mutual friend that don't be surprised if you have to take Melville back to California in a coffin. We will do our best to save his life. Evidently, Morrnah did save his life and healed his back injuries. In his final session of treatment, Morrnah personally gave him a massage for 4 hours. When it's done, he offered to write Morrnah a check for $40. Morrnah laughed and replied, "For you, Leilani, there is no charge. I regard you as a friend, not a customer. Will you please accept this, my gifts, instead of fragrant flower lays? The flowers wilt and lose their perfume. My gifts to you are health and life." 50 years ago, in 1921, Melville had an infection in his arm for almost a year. He was scheduled to have his arm amputated. He went to Morrnah's mother, Lilia, who was a well-respected kahuna La'au. His arm was healed overnight. He asked Lilia how much would she charge for her healing. She replied, "There is no charge. God gave me this healing power as a gift, he did not charge me. I cannot charge you because you are a friend." During his 2 weeks of treatment by Morrnah, Melville had many talks with her. He said Morrnah was a Christian but was not attached to any church. She was a devout believer in Jesus Christ and John the Baptist. At times, she felt that Christ spoke through her. She had a small spiritual group in Honolulu. Melville said Morrnah testified that she was taught a great deal by her mother Lilia in her final years. Morrnah said she also learned a great deal by observation. In a radio interview, in 1988, Morrnah's student Stan Hewlen talked about Morrnah's ability to manifest out of nothing to protect the island of Hawaii from tidal waves. She also foretold the nuclear plant meltdown in Chernobyl.
One day, Morrnah and I were on an airplane going to Philadelphia, and the plane got to be very rocky, so I did what we call the piece of eye. You can do it mentally. So I put a piece of eye on me. That is, I asked the Divinity allow me to be one with the Divinity. I put it on the airplane, outside, top, bottom, and when I did that, immediately the plane stopped buffeting. And then I said to Morrnah, "Wow, it's really rocky outside." She said, "That was inside of the airplane." Because the people really fear the airplane's going to go down, or some businessman has got a project he's not doing very well, and so all these stop phones are causing disturbances. We had another incident. Morrnah was someplace else, and one day I was home, and the weatherman said that a hurricane was coming our way, huge tsunami. And I don't usually do this. It was a rare experience for me. I was driving home, and just in my mind's eye, I could see outside of Hawaii a plexiglass. It was like a shield going across the island. And they said that this thing's going to hit us. But I saw in my mind's eye the wave hitting the shield and sliding off and not hitting Hawaii. And sure enough, a couple of hours later, it said, for some reason, we don't know why, it veered. And it veered very sharply. Almost like the mark short, it was like almost an 180 degree basically, 90 degree here. That somebody had put the plexiglass up there. Well, I don't do it. I don't have that kind of ability. I think it was my friend, Morrnah, put it up there. So I think, put the plexiglass and settle. I've seen that happen many times. Just for fun. Morrnah also explained us that she actually knew after the Chernobyl before it actually happened. And that Morrnah has this sort of transparency that she can tell these things before it happens and try to contribute to. Can you explain how this is possible? Well, what happened is that the Divinity knows everything. So you ask the Divinity. The Divinity said, "This is coming, so please get ready." So Morrnah's contact with Divinity is much much more certain than mine. But my own feeling said to me in Hawaii, what was coming up, I was ill. 2 days before Chernobyl hit, I was really ill, and I do all upon that plane, and nothing was lifted. So Morrnah called me, and I said to Morrnah, gee, I'm not feeling well, you know? And I worked with Ho'oponopono and had it work. Wow, this situation. And Morrnah said, well, I'm calling you because Chernobyl is going to go off in 2 days. It's because the Divinity is saying to us, so get ready. So, we did a certain process around the clock, like mother told. And so we did it. You know? So Morrnah has to, for the next 5 years, to bear the shock of that. Because if she wouldn't do it, it would have been much more devastating.
In the same interview, Morrnah talked about her experience with the Divinity, other galaxies, and alien beings.
You've been speaking about the Divinity.
Divinity is the one personal being that created everything from the sound and the waves and the water and every molecule of sand. Mm-hmm. And we talk about the guru doing that. He couldn't. Doesn't have the ability to do that because a lot of things that I have seen myself, have experienced, have been plain water. And doctors will say, you have this and you have that. No, there's no such a thing. But the thing that you yourself can easily clear it up.
No.
I think from the beginning of creation, man has been manipulating. And actually man thinks he's smarter than, well, not God, but smarter than anybody else. But he doesn't know everything.
No. Form.
Yes. Well, we see form. I see form in other galaxies. I've been to other galaxies. I can tell you what I know, that the Divinity takes me over, and I could see the void where he created the being. But there's some people on this side, the side with the void is, well, these people have never been on this side. They've never been living with us. They don't know anything.
They don't know any comic stuff.
It's just that we're here.
Yeah.
They don't have any.
The pure light.
Pure light. So that the roaches and the ants and the trees can go back to pure light.
When I was telling you that one day that somebody came from the cosmos saying, what is going on down there in Earth? What are you folks up to? They wanted to know.
They wanted to know. They have never been to Earth, and Earth is the lowest form of manifestation, because other planets have a lot more, or maybe more knowledge. And the people look different. They're much more powerful than we are. Very powerful.
That reminds me of step 2 of her Ho'oponopono process. In step 2 for I am peace, Amakua says to Uni Hippolyte, cheer up my child. Let you and me take a journey in the sky. Let me show you the galaxies of Nod, of Sod, and God. There are many untold stories about Morrnah Simeona, the mystic. They will be for another video. Morrnah's 12-step Ho'oponopono process and her prayers have their unique vibrations. Such a design can only be crafted by a master who truly understands and experiences the workings of all dimensions of existence. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave your comments.